Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing well, man. It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're happy to have you with us. So it was we talked briefly online the other day. And I was
Okay.
like, yeah, it sounds like a person who should call in.
Cool.
So where do we start? So you're a farmer, huh?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. There's a lot of mixed matches going on over here. I'm actually live as well, so I'm trying to get my audience to come on over to see you guys. I am a farmer. I'm trying to do it commercially, so I call myself a farmer. But it's slow going. Trying to learn it.
What made you get into that? And like, what do you farm?
So I have I'm muted right now.
No, no,
I
no.
know they should be able to hear me. They 1 second.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay, here it is. They're gonna have to hear us. I have to hear both now for some
are
reason.
you
Anyway,
saying you're
I
having
found
audio
a lot of
issues
things.
on your end too?
nice.
Yeah, it's so that my audience can hear us. Anyway, I hear everything. So I actually farm a lot of different things. I'm trying to learn basically how to do all of it.
Yeah.
That's
During
great.
real
I think
lives.
that's really important. When did you start?
This is going to be coming up on 4 years now. I try to do it indoors, but it's really just to kind of get people to think about what we could do
Hmm.
indoors, what we could like supplement, or just all sorts of.
Have you been having success? Like it's tough. I grew up around a lot of farms, and a lot of them right now, like generational farms, have been around, since some of them since the country started up in New York and in Pennsylvania, and they are slowly dying off because they're being purchased by giant corporations, and people are just not willing to farm anymore. So it's rare to talk to someone who's just now picking it up. Are you? How is it going?
Well, it's
Is BlackRock coming to buy
very
you?
interesting to say the least. What I've been trying to do is aquaponics, which I found out later was like next level stuff. Trying to start jumping in, you know, head first in the worst and the hardest things. But I think it's going to be overall. I don't know, not yet, but I think they are going to get into that. It's going to be more and more important as people get into things like farming in places in the world where farms can't really exist. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know much about the indoor stuff. What I was seeing growing up was just all the old school farming, and it's crazy to see how much of it's gone. Even when I was in Georgia writing a book, a lot of those generational farms were just being bought out, and like it seems like it's just almost undoable for a lot of these people these days because they're being priced out of what it takes to farm, but also then giant corporations are waving giant wads of cash in front of them, and they're just like, we're going to give up.
Oh, for sure. I actually think that there's something between the past and the future that we need to find, like the sweet spot in between, because the uh, old techniques meets the new technology, and I think there's a lot of different examples of that. And for one thing is that every person could do just like a tiny little bit more towards being more self-sustainable. That's kind of my main like spiel, you know what I mean? Like all of us could do, even in an apartment complex, you can have a little herb, or whatever, a little basil, something that you could grow next to your windowsill.
Hmm.
And I think everybody just needs to think about that more. Maybe not be a farmer, but maybe think about how important it is, and don't be thinking that your food just comes from the grocery store. Like just trying to move that needle towards the side of like just having it in the mainstream culture. That's why I know about you guys and Tim Cass and the whole gang, because the whole push towards culture, it makes so much sense, because I kind of was more of a political beast, but then it's like, well, it makes more sense to try to drive culture. Let's try to just make it fun, make it more entertaining. So I try to think about like the late night talk shows, the entertainment shows that we grew up with. All the Jimmys, the
Oh yeah.
10 different Jimmys and the Conans. What are they doing? They are using entertainment. They're using the glitz and the glamour and the music to dress up one thing, and that's politics, right? And I thought, well, why not do that same thing, but for sustainability, for things that that everyone, you know, has to deal with. Every person has to eat, right?
Yep.
Like there's no simpler phrase being said, but I don't hear a lot of people reminding each other that, you know, like we can disagree all day long, but we still both got to get food in our bellies.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important. People started to realize how important that was during like lockdowns. But so you said you've been doing this for 4 years. Was this idea born out of the idea of lockdowns and what happened with people having problems with the grocery stores?
Somewhat. I actually was kind of getting politically active around the uh, Tea Party days, I guess. I
Okay.
was the delivery driver. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh and
Sick.
Glenn Beck, and
Yep.
you know they were a little bit beyond my time as far as kind of, how do I put this, kind of old and fuddy duddy, and kind of they weren't hip and cool for their day, but they were making a lot of sense. And I thought, okay, let's look into this. And then you had, who was it, Breitbart? I think, was like, politics is downstream from culture. So I'm
Yep.
like, I started thinking about it. I actually was talking about it for about a year or two before COVID. And then I was like, holy crap, I thought I was going to be too late. I thought there's no way I can get this whole vision I had off the ground now because everything's falling apart. But I think maybe I still have some time.
Yeah. So when we talked, you said you had some like historical stories or something like that. Could you share any?
Oh, what I meant was I'm interested in history because of the old school ways meeting new technology. For instance, the aquaponics is an old school thing. That's from, you know, Mayans were doing that thousands of years ago. And so I'm like, let's try to create new ways to do that same natural process that they used. You know, the fish and the water from the lakes and
Right.
using that.
Will you use robots?
Right. Well, they're actually doing that. I'm seeing some AI and robots using in a lot of farms now, which is kind of freaky, but we'll see how it goes.
Can you tell me which farm so I don't buy their food? I don't
What does
want
that look like?
robot hands on my food.
It's funny. I mean, they're using these giant drones that carry liquid, so you can just use them to spray everything with drones now. You don't need a pilot with the old bi-wing, you know, drunken pilot scenario. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Where are you at with like using insecticide and stuff and the idea of like what's organic and what's not? Because I know that's like a debate within that whole world.
Oh, it's crazy, man. I've actually been getting into the communities on X that are like really the people that have the knowledge, but maybe they're just not so fun to talk to. You know, I'm trying to bridge that gap. And those people are really, they talk about glyphosate, you know, that's such a huge one. Um, it's kind of good that they're getting some of these chemicals out of the food. Hopefully that's a good thing, but we got a long ways to go. I think nature does kind of balance itself out. They find different things that eat plastics, and you know, there's a lot of good examples of nature figuring it out. We just have to leave room for that, you know.
Yeah, I wrote this story once about onion farmers. There's a big onion farmland by me in New York called Pine Island, and a lot of them were doing whatever they had to do to be organic. Because I know there's like a bunch of hoops you have to jump through to be approved to be or quote unquote organic. And then there was a huge flood. And this is like on a old giant flat field that they say was part of a glacier. Who knows? Supposedly mastodon skeletons pop up out of the ground there with the onions. But this giant flood that happened, like this is in 10 or 15 years ago, it brought all the sewage waste into the onion fields. And it's just like they were still considered organic. All the farmers were like, that was so weird. Like we jumped through all these hoops to be organic. The sewage infected everything.
Ew.
And they still sold the onions.
Ew.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy story.
Oh, it's nuts.
And the state was just like, it's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
That organic label is basically just BS. Like
Yes.
if you look into the parameters that you have to quote follow to be organic, there's like a certain amount of feet it has to be away from a non-organic crop.
Yep.
But like we know there's like wind exists, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of simple things that show you that that's kind of BS.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, you just reminded me. Remember, so for Chris and Alex, since you
Yeah.
both worked on the Inverted World book, remember the boll weevil? Like that insect that who just traveled on the wind and destroyed all the crops.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Down south, and people didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was just like a plague destroyed all the cotton crops. And eventually, after like years and years of them dealing with this bug, they realized the only thing they could do was bioengineer the cotton to basically kill off the bug. And some towns made a lot of money off of it because I think they switched their crops and it made them a lot of money. I forget what town it was, but there's like a giant statue to the boll weevil in that town to this day. It's crazy stuff, man. But what else do you got for us, sir?
You know, I kind of have ideas for a sort of a farm that can be self-sustainable, but also generate green electricity. And I have all kinds of plans, guys. But it's been awesome talking with you. Definitely, we should do it again for sure. But yeah, I have this whole thought of like gym that is generating electricity, but I think they're starting to do that now. It makes a lot more sense. But,
that's awesome. Is there like a website or anything where you sell stuff that people can go to?
I'm starting to get some merch. You know, I'm just by myself. You know, I'm just a guy trying to do it all by himself. But yeah, I'm on Locals. I have a Locals community where I do a lot of private stuff. We're doing game night right now, where everyone's listening to us on my game night, and we're going to be playing some games and just kind of a fun hangout with a little self-sustainable, you know, lean to it.
Sick.
But
You said
yeah,
you were
that's
streaming
about it.
live. Where are you streaming live?
Yeah, where can people find you?
We are streaming on Rumble right now on
Nice.
The Indoor Farmer on Rumble.
Cool.
Capital T, The Indoor Farmer. Yeah, I am also in the and now your Discord, which that was crazy. It kicked me out of your Discord.
Ugh.
Literally, I could not. It was gone.
Our
Chris,
Discord
blame
is
Chris
done.
Carr.
Whoa.
We blame the
Chris's fault.
gremlins. The
It's called,
gremlins
it's called Discord. So, I mean,
is negative in the title.
Yeah, it's nothing but chaos.
Right.
Yeah, we know. Sorry about that, dude. But thank you for joining us. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. Really, really great to talk to you.
Me
Have a good
too.
night.
Later. Speaking of Georgia, I got an update recently. There's something going on. Remember that hotel I stayed at? That
Yeah.
where the witches
I remember it well.
like ran it, and they. So for those who don't know, like Chris was the editor of the book, and Alex is the audio editor of the serialized audio stories.
And in case you missed it in the beginning, Chris and I have been together for 16 years.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They sort of know each other.
We've been
sort of know
editing
each
for
other.
a while.
Yeah.
We just edit. That's all we do.
Welcome to marriage counseling with Shane Cashman. So
That's
like,
why we have our hats on.
yeah. So I heard that there's like some sort of mystery happening at that hotel now, and it's like I don't know if it's a murder mystery, but that hotel is haunted. For those who didn't hear that story from that book, I spent all this time in Georgia looking for the Confederate gold that was allegedly left there by Jefferson Davis as he dissolved the Confederacy in that town just after Richmond being burned down by the Confederates, so they say, as the Union was moving in. Took the trains down, eventually landed in Washington, Georgia. Shout out to Clint Brantley and his family who hosted me down there for many, many different times. I'd go down there, but so like the book immediately went from I'm going to look for gold to like, oh, there's aliens and murder mysteries
And witches.
and like,
Yeah.
these dudes want to like skin us alive, you know, and which we had the voicemails for that. I think they're still on this
Oh,
this
yeah, whatever
website,
happened
right?
to that? They
I think
just
they're still.
stopped?
I think we
That
put
was
them in
good.
the videos. They're somewhere on this channel.
Yeah. I've been trying to share those old episodes this last week. But
Those are crazy.
I'll keep throwing them in there.
Yeah, I forget
when
where
I
that is.
can.
It's in one of them because that message is amazing. Because that guy had like a Bayou accent. He was so mad. But anyway, in the center of this town is this old hotel that I heard one of the first people to ever be hanged in Georgia by the state was buried there. And so I was like, I'm going to stay at this hotel and, see what goes on there. I've heard all these different stories, and there was like a trap door I heard about that led down to the old graveyard below the hotel, which was eventually moved to another graveyard. So they say. Mm-hmm. So I get my room there. It's this beautiful old hotel in the middle of the town square in the shadow of a giant Confederate statue. It's pretty sick. And I'm like, I got to ask someone about like the trap door. And I go to talk to her, the lady, the concierge, and she's a witch, straight up witch. She's got like Anubis on her counter, and like she's learning about mortuary arts, and she's got all like the herbs and stuff. She's telling me about witchcraft. I'm like, okay. Turns out like everyone who ran this hotel is a witch. Like there was an Appalachian witch. Appalachia or Appalachia?
Appalachia.
Good. Okay.
I still can't
Well, you
get
would
it
know.
right.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
So like everyone there was a witch, and it was just like a super dark vibe. And they gave me I got to the trap door, went downstairs, saw what was allegedly the graveyard at one point. And that led out to where, if you go downstairs in the basement and outside, you see the tree where she was hanged. I forget her name now. There's so many weird stories in that place. But yeah, now there's something up with the owner, like one of those witches, I guess.
She going back?
I'm like, I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm like, can I do it again? That was because I spent a lot of time down there. And there's a lot of lovely people, but there's a lot of people who are really upset that you go down there, especially with my Yankee accent.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have Clint with me, who's from there, like his family is from that town, but predating the revolution, right? So they're down there forever. And if he wasn't like, I kept considering him like my Virgil, right? Is that
right.
Dante?
Yeah.
Right? Like he was my Virgil through Washington, Georgia. So yeah, I don't know the articles. I'm not going to waste time pulling it up, but something weird is happening. And I'm like thinking like, do I go back to Washington, Georgia?
Georgia's weird. We went to Savannah once, and it was.
That's my favorite. I love that place.
It's beautiful, but it was weird as hell.
What was weird?
No,
about
it's not as weird as South Carolina. South Carolina is a weird place.
I mean, Savannah was pretty bad.
I love Savannah, but that's like a
it's
spooky
beautiful.
town.
Yeah, it was.
It's a
They
really
had
spooky
nice
town.
beaches. I mean,
Yeah. There's good food there, but it's like another one of those towns that's been captured by crazy people.
I guess
It's a
so,
college
yeah.
town,
Yeah.
When I was still teaching, that was my dream. I was like, I'm going to teach at whatever that college is. I'm totally spacing on it now.
Yeah.
That art school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the main art school in
But
Savannah.
I'm
yeah.
SCAD.
SCAD.
But
Yes.
We went there.
Yeah.
and checked it out.
wasn't going to happen. They did not want me a part of that, and I'm
Right.
glad it didn't happen. But that's a great town. Great ghost stories. Great Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It's a great
Right.
book
Right.
based on it's a murder mystery in
Yeah.
Savannah. But yeah, I love that town.